fire.
He was trying to be late.
Okay.
So the drill bit's still on.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. This meeting of the Bisbee Design Review Board is called to order by Lori Ganell at 5:30 p.m. on, what day is this? The 2nd of October, 2024. Today's the 3rd? No, it's the 2nd.
No, you're right.
Yeah. Sorry, I will do roll call. Bob DeCruff.
Here.
Peter Gaffer.
Present.
Lori Ganell here. John Guy.
Here.
Ben Lepley.
Here.
Doug Taylor.
Present.
Ted Schriever.
Here.
Frank Davis.
Here.
Emmanuel Stewart.
Here.
And Javier Rodriguez.
Here.
Everybody's here, yay! So I'll start with a call to the public. If there's anybody here who would like to speak on an item that is not on the agenda this evening, you would have 3 minutes. Nobody? Okay, I will close the call to public and we'll go to some old business. Agenda item 1, application 24-92. John Guy. Step up to the mic.
I had submitted the application for 4 different items. 2 of the items, the staircase repair and the dual zone mini split, both of those were administratively approved. So this evening we'll be looking at the porch railing and the corrugated metal fencing. We'll start with the porch railing. So my proposal is 4x4 pressure treated lumber, as vertical posts, a 2x4 pressure treated top rail, and then stainless steel wire cables that stand between the 4x4 posts. And this would be to go, and there's a photo of this fence that's similar to what I'm proposing. And this would go along the front portion of the extended porch where there's a bit of a step off. So the sides of the porch are within inches of the ground, so that's not an issue at all. The second item is the corrugated metal fencing. So that would be, there's a boundary fence currently that is bamboo and weeds, a screen fence. What I'm proposing is, for the new fence, is be 4 to 5 foot high pressure treated lumber with the corrugated panels in it. It would follow the slope of the mountain, so there would be a step down for each of the panels, hence the varying heights of it. And there's also a picture of a similar fence that I included in the package. And it would be a fence very similar to what I've got proposed in there.
Thank you. Okay, I'll open this up to public comments. If anybody is here to speak for or against this application. Okay, closing public comments, staff comments.
On the corrugated fencing that's running on the side of the house there, according to the zoning code, past the front of the house, it can only be 4 foot in the front. I see you have it drawn in a straight line up there on the side. So
Yes.
from the front of your door or the front of the house, it has to drop down and be 4 foot from down. It can't be 6 foot all the way through.
Okay, so 4 foot's probably okay. I have 4 to 5 foot proposed, so it follows the contour
Okay.
of the mountain. However, that would need to be taken into consideration for the front.
Yeah, in the front part. There's not much in the front, I know, but just gotta,
There's
yeah.
like 3, about 12 foot.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's not a problem.
Okay. Thank you.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Closing staff comments and opening up the board discussion.
I've got a quick question, maybe for Javier. In some municipalities, you can't have horizontal cables on a deck railing because kids will climb over them. I don't know if that's the case here.
I haven't seen nothing to that effect, here.
Usually depends on the spacing of them. They have to be like 4 inches.
It's 4 inches, a 4-inch sphere can't go through it. And, I mean, that cable gets pretty tight, so I think he can make it to code.
Yeah, they don't go through them, but they climb up.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
climb up,
I mean,
yeah.
I love the looks of it, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
In Phoenix, you can't do that.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think we have nothing against that right now.
Yeah, okay.
I've only seen that in the context of swimming pools, the child climbing thing.
Yeah.
No, good question.
Yes.
Okay,
Mr.
John,
Taylor?
or Mr. Guy, I'm considering the look of the, I think it looks, that's a perfectly great rail or whatever for certain applications, but I think, you have a contributing house, and I'm just wondering if you considered anything more historic looking than a cable rail.
Now, so the concept is to keep the view of the house. The house has a spectacular view. The top rail is necessary to keep the vertical posts in a span so I can tighten the cable between them. But the concept was to keep absolute clear view off the front porch. So no, I didn't look at anything historic. And there's old aspects and new aspects of the house. I think I've got a composite deck and I've got some concrete board. The house definitely has some contemporary items on it. The historic items are prominent. I mean, they show and are obvious what they are. And same thing with the contemporary items. They're very obvious what they are, and it blends very well with the neighborhood as well.
My personal feeling is it's too modern, but, this is what you're presenting, so we'll see how people go with that.
I appreciate that.
Anybody else? Yes, Mr. Gaffney.
John, this is very much a secondary fence, and it's for safety reasons, so people don't trip and fall off the edge of the deck. Is that my understanding? You're retaining the old fence.
I've got some comment that,
Yeah.
that would be a heck of a step. And it would be. It's within code height,
Yeah.
but it is still a
Yeah, and so
heck of a step.
you're putting it there for safety reasons, so
Yes.
it's a safety measure. I see that's,
Yeah, it's-
but you're trying to make it as invisible as possible.
It is definitely not for aesthetics. That's correct. Yeah, I prefer it with no rail on it at all.
Right, I understand. So it seems eminently reasonable that you would put something in that, you're not ripping down an old fence, and putting in something modern, you're adding this as a safety precaution.
That's correct.
Anybody else? Questions?
It's not replacing anything old that needs historic preservation, so I don't mind. And as per National Parks guidelines, if it's new, it should look like the current era, so.
Okay, all right. Do we have a motion for this item? I could make a motion. I make a motion that we approve application 24-92 with the caveat that the front of the fence that's toward the front of the house does not go above 4 feet.
Any fencing beyond the front door, yes.
Yes.
One second.
Okay, we have a second from Mr. Croft. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All against, say nay. Okay, your application is unanimously approved. Thank you. And moving right along to another item of old business, 1012 Tombstone Canyon, application number 24-102. And this is the windows. Do you have somebody here to speak to this one?
Really quickly,
Yes.
I want to say, we want to give her 2 options, right? So we have the, have you had a chance to see the letter from Ariana Urban from SHPO?
Yes.
Okay. Do we want to go over it again?
Well,
Or-
but the person who's made the application is not here, or
Not-
did they ask you to present their case?
Well, we were saying that we want them, they want you to give them either 2 options, because they're not sure like which direction to go. So they're saying
Okay.
they want you to essentially follow.
Yeah, why aren't they here? I think they were supposed to come back.
I think they were sort of like, they were unsure about this next step,
They were supposed to come back with some alternatives.
some alternatives.
Right.
And they wanted you to give them alternatives.
Have they been copied on this email from Ariana?
I believe so.
Okay, it's unusual to not have a representative
Yeah.
for a decision.
Do you want to represent it, Mike?
Okay.
He shouldn't have to.
Yeah, or me, I guess I'll represent it.
Okay, come on up. And then we're gonna have staff comments, so.
I think we're gonna get here.
Okay,
Go ahead.
so you guys read the letter from Ariana
Yes.
Urban?
Yes,
She came up with 2 options here, and
yes,
she gave her opinion on what she preferred. She was saying that, changing the windows, the lady was unhappy with her windows, right? She didn't like the way they are now. She wants to make them more safer, take away the draft out of the house. She is using really expensive windows. She's not going the cheap route. She's putting good windows in there. But Ariana was saying if she could leave the front ones, I think one option was, leave the
Yes.
front ones and change all the rest of them to the newer ones, and also save the windows, correct?
yes,
Yes.
Save the windows, or
windows.
or put windows inside of them, right? The windows. Yeah, so. Let me see one thing real quick. But as Ariana recommended, she was always saying she could suggest some things, but it's really up to you guys what you feel is more comfortable for this area. Gosh. Should have brushed up a little more on that, but
No, that was,
You
but
shouldn't
those
have
were,
to.
I know, but those were the 2 options that Ariana mentioned.
yeah, and the
She didn't
windows.
recommend, she mentioned.
And those windows are really nice, they go inside of the window, you don't have to change the outside, they're removable, you could open them and that stuff, so. But saving the windows, I think, is a good idea too for future people if they want to, if they had the means to restore them and put them away, not just discard them and break them up,
Okay. Do we have any public comments for or against this application? No? Can we move along to staff comments? Do you have anything additional that you'd like to say as staff?
I don't, this is a touchy one, I love the look of the old window, the old glass and stuff. It sucks that she's not happy in her house, not being able to open them, the breeze and that effect. And too bad she didn't have the means or know a person or a contact to properly fix them, And it's kind of hard in this area to find people, but there's probably some out there, she just doesn't know them. So this is why the route we're going.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I will open the board discussion. Yes?
I think these are beautiful windows. I won't vote for them to be removed. The windows, I think, are good, but if she wants movable windows, Ms. Urban stated that, but it's right here, that historic windows be retained rather than replaced. Replacement should be considered only if the historic windows are beyond repair. These are beautiful windows. They may not open, but they could be easily.
Okay, I tend to agree with your sentiment about these windows. I think that my recommendation, not our recommendation, my recommendation would probably be the Indos, because there are beautiful windows. And it is possible to make a compromise, and that she could replace the windows in the back, but that is really, I think, about half of the windows. Is it not in the back? It's a lot of windows.
The whole unit is
Yeah.
just beautiful.
Have you guys been to the property and seen the rear of the house? Is it visible from the street?
No.
Any street
No.
or anything?
No.
Well, you want to make a motion to that effect?
No, let's
I
see
got
what
a
other
couple
people have to
thoughts.
say.
So, like, you know, we did give her some choices when she was here, and I don't think she was happy with any of them, if I recall right. That's without her here, it's a little tough.
Yeah.
I think Ariana has a practical approach to these kind of things. It is a shame, in a way. My feeling is if the windows are kept, that is not the end of the world to put new windows in, because they'll be fully functional. But again, it is a contributing property, so
Yeah.
it's pretty important. So I'm not hard over, but again, Ariana, I think, has a practical approach on this. So I wouldn't be horribly upset if she gets put in new windows, that's my opinion.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Gafford.
I would ask that I would make a motion, the applicant should read and inwardly digest this memorandum. And maybe the applicant and the contractor could come up with a compromise, which is sort of what we suggested
It is.
they should do. I don't think it's for us to sit here and tell her what she can't do. Well, I think the consensus is we tell them to put in, to repair the existing windows. I'm just guessing from the comments, but I don't think it's our purview to actually tell them at this point how to address this without her having, and her contractor having digested this
So you
matter.
have a comment. So,
Yes, yes.
So the owner did suggest as a compromise, the replacing of the back windows, the windows that are not visible from the streets.
Yes.
So really, I sympathize with her. I know that she needs to seal up her house.
Yeah.
The windows are heavy, I get it, I understand that. To find storage place for them in the summertime, if you're not opening windows, not ideal. However, a nice compromise is that she could do a hybrid, replacing the back windows, the windows that are not street facing, and do some other method for whether it's seals or windows or whatever that is for the windows that are facing
So just 2 days ago, one of my original windows on my house, which is 1890s, the sash weight fell off and it wouldn't stay up, kept falling down. It took me an hour to fix it. Pried the wood off, threaded the sash chain back through, put a new wire, twisted it, put it back on, mud it. Maybe later I'll paint, so you can't tell. These old windows are built to be repairable, just like a Model T. You replace them, the details are standard, they're not like vinyl windows now where if it busts, it's dead. You can't service them. Same with old faucets and stuff, they're serviceable, they're designed to be serviceable. I think she just needs to put her nose to the phone book and find somebody who has the time and has the skills to fix these. And there are quite a few craftsmen in Bisbee that are totally down to do it. So she just needs to do that. And when they're redoing them, put in flashing, put in rubber gaskets, like whatever needs to be done to make them windproof as well. So.
Would it be within our ability to provide a list of, I don't have contractors for it, I don't have skilled contractors there.
I think she can talk to Mr. Rodriguez about that.
But I mean, maybe if she had those resources, we could provide something through the office, through to Nina or one of the,
That'd be helpful.
that may be helpful.
Yeah, I would agree.
There is, as an architect, the way I find folks is either word of mouth, usually now, but when I first moved to Bisbee, it was going on to the Arizona ROC website and doing a search with a zip code, and you find people in Hereford, Bisbee, whatever, especially like, for something like this, look up painters and cabinetry folks. People that you know have good woodworking tools.
Okay. Mr. Schreiber, do you have anything to contribute to the conversation?
No.
Okay, do we have anybody who would like to make a motion?
Okay. I'll make,
Yeah. You have time.
I'll make a motion to table this until
She's been tabled.
it,
She's been tabled. I mean, this is, I don't know if she needs to get going on this before winter, but she's been tabled already.
So we could give a
it's
recommendation,
not here though, so.
No, I know.
but we
That's
could
good.
give a
Maybe she just didn't
recommendation
understand.
that she either repair the existing windows and we will, the city can help her figure out how to find somebody that could do that, or she get windows. And in both of those cases, then the original windows are.
Or you could do both.
Or you could do both.
I think you do have the right to make that suggestion.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably a good compromise.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
I guess it's on me. I'll make a motion, which one is this?
It is,
Make a motion for application 24-102 to not permit demolition or removal of the windows, but instead restoration of the windows, weatherization of the windows, and/or installation of windows, or similar storm-type windows that retain the existing windows.
I second the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All against say nay. Okay, the 7 ayes have it unanimously for this application. You got all that, Emmanuel?
Sure.
Okay.
It's got a video, right?
I know.
Look at
Look at the tape. Okay. New business, agenda item 3, application 24-105, 508 Tombstone Canyon. Is there anybody here to speak to this one?
If they're not here.
Road solution.
Oh, come on
Road
up.
solutions.
So just tell us, you can tell us briefly what you're proposing for this house.
Okay, as far as I know, Rope Solutions been doing business, fortunately with Bisbee for 7 years. And having installed tens, if not or more, hundreds ropes, right? Being bar panel, corrugated metal, blue panel, and standing seam. And as far as, we've never had this come up, as far as not being able to install an R panel on that street. And so it was kind of surprising to hear that, that it wasn't accepted. So we would like to, being that the material was ordered and that material is cut to that property itself, we can't use it anywhere else, and the lady did pay make the down payment. Is there any way, and also the color is very neutral, it's Mansard brown. And I don't know if that makes any difference. It's not very, it doesn't, it's not very, I'm not saying, it's visible, but it's not gonna be, there. It's not colorful at all, right? So it's Mansard brown, and we would like for you to consider us installing that last one, because it's been already cut to that, for that property.
Okay. Okay, thank you. You can say this in case there's questions. Do we have any public comments for or against this application?
Actually, I wasn't planning to talk about it, but I just realized that I had recommended to my client Sandy
Yeah.
that she speak with Roof Solutions
Okay,
for a nice metal roof. And I don't know what happened or when it was denied. She did text and let me know. Does anyone have any images of what it was that was rejected?
well, I think when we get to staff comments, we'll probably
Okay.
enlighten us on.
Yeah, because that's awesome of you to come. Anyway, it's a nice house, and yeah, I thought that what you showed me made sense, but anyway,
Okay,
that's nice of you to show
thank
up.
you, Eliza. All right, any other public comments? No? Okay, staff comments.
Yeah, the R panel was rejected on another one, so we were real weary are real cautious of trying to approve another R panel, so we need to be clear if we want them to be approved or not, if it's shingle, to R panel, or just in cases, that's why it wasn't approved by staff. Want to see what your guys' opinion was on
So,
these type.
so explain to me a little more, because I know we approve metal roofs
Yeah.
all the time. What's
Yeah.
the difference?
It's just the R panel, I think, is maybe not aesthetically.
Taking that.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that.
In that case, we approved.
Yeah, the other one.
But I
Yeah,
can speak to that.
I just didn't wanna, it wasn't approved on one and I didn't wanna approve it on another one, then, you know, we're not consistent, you know?
Okay.
So I want the consistency to be there if
Yeah.
we're not approving it, you know?
Okay.
That's what I want, that's where it really was going.
Okay, so thank you. All right, I'll open up the board discussion then. Mr. Leftley?
It's probably the one that flagged the last one. Just my point of view, the historic metal roofs are usually just standing seam, or now they've got a standing seam that's like a snap, it's really fast to install. Or this, which I brought from my application, which is your traditional, and then there's a cheap version of this from Home Depot that's like thinner, but it kind of looks the same. And to me, for admin approval, I'm totally fine with either of those or like for like, because they're historically similar.
Yeah.
You know, the art panel came about, I think, in like the 70s or 80s. And that's what's on the face of the Dollar General, you know, the new one that's by the traffic circle. And it's just like, it's a bit industrial, you know, for a historic building to have on the roof. And generally speaking, this is the same price as an art panel anyways. It's stronger, it's a better product. So, and it comes in the same color selection as the art. It's just which dyes they put in the rolling machine is the only difference.
I agree with Ben that this isn't as simple as an historic roof would look. And I think that it should be something simpler. I think if we end up approving this because he's already cut it, we wouldn't go forward and say it's an administrative no-brainer. I think if our panel comes back, now that maybe people know that it isn't what we're looking for, that we'd have to have it before us again. So I don't know how we're gonna vote on this, but I think this is too modern looking and not historic looking.
I agree with Doug, I mean, this is already purchased.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
So,
right.
so let's just
okay.
approve it and move forward would be my suggestion.
But not as a road
Not as
approval in the future.
Exactly.
One thing,
Okay.
I want the builder to know is you gotta be real careful of what materials you pick in the future. You should wait until approval before you do that.
We're very happy to abide any laws or suggestions or anything that the historic asks us to, but we weren't aware of that. And in this case, it would be very sad to tell the lady and also the project manager that he'd be losing that money. We're very careful all the time. if we would have known, and I commit to extending the information to all the other contractors so that they don't bid on any metal panels that you do not approve. But in this case, I would humbly ask for approval on Sandy Hill's road.
Thank you.
So the Bisbee standards, SHPO, the National Forest Service, all of those are very clear that we shouldn't try to duplicate antiquity. So in other words, we should be installing materials, new materials, so that they're very easily distinguishable between old materials, right? So there's copy after copy after copy of our panel in Bisbee. It's a great roof. Some people prefer the R panel. I know that the house on Souls that came up last week, the requester, the owner of the house, very much preferred the R panel. I have no problem approving this, but I do think in order to be consistent, because that's what, as a committee, that's what we're supposed to be doing, is advising and directing and protecting the town of Bisbee. For consistency's sake, I believe we should go back and approve the R panel roofing for the Souls house as well. But I would be willing to make a motion that we approve 2497 from last month, and also the 2405, which is this current request, with the R panel roofing.
Well, in this particular case, though, I think you'd be making an exception because they've already cut and purchased the materials.
Well, so
do you know what I'm saying?
We would do that, yes.
Yeah.
But my
Yeah.
comment is, we shouldn't be trying to match antiquity. That's our clear direction.
This is replacing the
This is a
historic roof
contributing
now.
structure.
We could say, no brainer, they can put the shingles back on, but this isn't like your fence, which didn't exist before, that we can say, well, it's now a new thing. This is something replacing the historic roofing. So it should be, and believe me, I'm feeling sympathetic toward this contractor.
Well, so am I.
And the owner.
And our other neighbors as well. I mean, our panel roofing is very distinguishable, that it's not, we're not trying to duplicate antiquity, right? I mean, and that's what all
If
our
it was a
guidelines are telling us to
non-contributing
do.
or a brand-new building, I would say that was the case. In a case where, let's see, is it a C? Yeah, it's a C, it's contributing, then I think it has to be as close as we can to something that would have been of the time.
So that's not what I'm reading in the different guidelines.
I understand, I hear you saying that.
It's nuanced.
Absolutely.
The thing with this material is they didn't stop making it. It's still made, right? And you can also get beautiful red bricks and high glaze yellow bricks that were used in 1910 that are still used now. We should still be able to do those. It's just, we don't want it to look like, you know, like Tombstone, right? Where everything's fake, you know, like proportions are off and you know, it's kind of like Disneyland sort of stuff. I think that's my interpretation of those guidelines. But this is still manufactured, so it's actually still of the time, but it's also still back, you know, 1910, you know. It's nuanced. I mean, it's yeah.
Without trying to interpret the guidelines, it says one thing, and that is to not duplicate antiquity.
Well, you can tell by Ms. Urban's letter that it's confusing even to the people of SHPO.
Well, and I mean, I want to be consistent with what we're advising and what we're requesting from our neighbors. It makes sense, and that gives us a lot of credibility as well when we're consistent with these items.
But if we were being consistent tonight, we would deny it. Do you know what I'm saying? And since they've already purchased it, you know.
Or
something-
going back and approving this one, I could, with an easy drive down Tombstone Canyon, I could come up with 25 R-pound roads. They're there, they exist in Bisbee, they're all over the place.
And there are all kinds of other things that get changed without permission, as we
Agreed,
know.
agreed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I tend to agree with John. as I recall the SHPO presentation, and I distinctly remember what you said, like you mentioned. Frankly, I don't think it's a huge deal, but I tend to agree with John.
I'm thinking maybe this is it seems like we're headed to approving this contingent upon the fact that the materials were already ordered. I think both of you have a good point that we have to be consistent. Maybe we need to discuss further the materials like we did with windows and, you know, over time. But I think at this, to approve it blanketly this evening is not the right way to do it. I think we could go through and become more consistent. I think you both are totally on point with that.
Yeah, we gotta be consistent, but, after the SHPO presentation, that was an eye-opener for me. And I think in the long run, remember the matrices that we created? That's a great place for us to discuss.
And we could put it in that,
Yeah.
certainly. But I don't think on the fly we should. But I do see a real dilemma for this contractor and this owner.
Yeah.
I know the owner of the Souls house was adamant on the R panel. She suggested that her parents use it, her family uses it, she was very comfortable with it.
Okay, so, but I don't think we should be discussing something that isn't an application in front of us.
Right.
What I'm saying is that,
Right,
Yeah, I totally
we really, we're not supposed to do that.
I would suggest that you move on this one, and put this other
And we
thing
can
on the
discuss it.
agenda, that you can talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But you can't address it tonight, because it's not on.
yeah,
Yeah.
so, but I appreciate it.
okay, so I'd like to make a motion on this.
Okay,
I make a motion that we approve application 24105 as submitted.
I second.
okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All against say nay.
Nay.
Nay. 5 ayes and 2 nays. Your application or your client's application passes. Okay. Thank you. All right, agenda item number 4. Great, so this is application 24-107, and this is yours. Mr. Leftley recuses himself from voting on this item.
So do I.
Oh, and so does
Yeah.
Mr. Trump.
So I printed out some additional literature for y'all. So this, I'll just, maybe you can take this and pass it around that way. And actually, I'll be there just focus on this house. And then you can take this and pass it.
Yes.
Thank you. Pretty quiet. I can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Madam Chairman?
We have directions on the.
Just a point of order, all those who have declared a conflict need to state the conflict and step off the dais. They can't sit on the...
Okay, so you'll need to step away just for this one. If you state what the conflict is while you're being recused. And then, is that correct,
Well,
Mr.
I
Estes?
was told I could comment but not vote.
You can, but you need to sit on the, with the
Yeah, you
audience.
can sit over there, okay.
Your band.
Yeah, just temporarily,
May not be allowed.
temporarily.
Right.
Okay,
Thanks.
there we go.
Understood.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. DeCroix.
You have,
All right.
Email.
Mr. Leftley?
Okay, so I'm presenting to you my, I made notes. Let me get my notes.
Take your time. We're good.
Okay, so presenting my house here, and what we have is On the first page, I bought this house in 2016. It was in a state of severely advanced decay. It was like a tear-down situation. I got it for the price of the land. It had been abandoned for over 30 years. It had caught on fire, been put out, then put out again. It was a junkyard for a time around it, and then got cleaned up a little bit. So I bought the house, and I made a promise to the previous owners that I would save the house and restore it back as much as I could to the original design. I had never been before DRB at that point, and that was actually my introduction to Bisbee DRB in 2016, I think October. And so during that process, I did research. You can see I found an old mining map that shows High Street. It shows Clawson. It does not show Tembe. Tembe did not exist in 1901. It was a dirt path where Tembe is now, or a mule path. So that's the very first trace of the house I could find is 1901. But I know from tin cans under the house it dates back to the 1890s. And then I've got some photos of the house from 1910-ish, and then also 1940s. There's a color photo of the house, and it features a front porch that was torn down. And in the photos of the state of the house when I bought it, you can see there was a living room in front. And that was torn down right before I bought it, which was not original. And then there's an addition to the side of the house, which was not original, that we turned into an Arizona room with DRB permission. So I'm saying all this because this is the historic preservation I did on this house up to date, right? Owner build permits and DRB permission, all that. So since then, I've gotten married, and you know, we're planning forward, and we're trying to, you know, get the house ready, get the property ready. I've got a lot of stuff in the yard that needs a shed to be in. We've got a lot of art stuff in the house that needs a shed to live in. And we also have multiple cars. When I bought the house, it was just me parking out front. And a lot of homes on Tempe were vacant. Now, a lot of people, new people have moved in full-time. Some Airbnbs got converted to full-time ownership or rental. So the parking situation's gotten worse on Tempe over the last 8 years. So that kind of leads to the second reason of wanting to build this shed. Well, there's actually lots of things in the presentation. But the main thing is the shed and garage. So the shed and garage is a two-story corrugated metal. I looked around Bisbee at what does a typical Bisbee garage look like. And so it's in architecture, it's called a vernacular. So a miner shack is a vernacular, a craftsman house is a vernacular, a Bisbee tin shed is a vernacular. Some are new, some are old, and there's actually one built just a year ago and across the street, directly across the street, a tin shed, brand new, single pitch roof, corrugated metal, and some are 2 stories, some are single stories. So there's photos of some of those tin sheds around Bisbee that I took inspiration from. A couple of them use corrugated fiberglass as windows that mesh with the corrugated metal, and so that's something I took inspiration from. It's a very tight site. We've got a tree that I just planted, an ash tree, that I want to protect and kind of build around. We've got a setback of 5 feet to the east that I need to step back from and make a retaining wall and stabilize. And we've got a sliding door that's carefully measured so that it stops right at the property and there's enough room to swing a car in there. The intent is to go 18 feet into the hill, so that the car can go in all the way in, not stick out in the street, and the door shut and lockable if needed. And then upstairs will be just open storage and/or a studio. Facing the house, that wall facing the house and the wall north would be all corrugated fiberglass. Everything else would be corrugated metal. That's because light from in those directions is very stable and neutral. So that, I also did a study of the roof lines and the heights of buildings along Tempe on the north side. There's a number of buildings that were built since the 1980s that go 26, 30 feet high. This is much lower. I think it's 20 feet. So I've got a front elevation that shows all the dimensions of the front elevation on there, and I believe it's there it is, 18'7". And so I actually had a previous design that was quite a bit higher, and I was talking with my neighbor Eliza, who's here, about it, and she mentioned her concerns of blocking view and light. So I actually changed the design before this came to the DRB and actually lowered it so that it matches her porch sill in elevation. So I'd use that as a strike point and be lower than that on the street frontage. And I believe the vertical setback, the height limit is 23 feet, extendable up to 26, so I'm well below that. But there's a number of houses, at least 5 houses that are right up to, houses or garages that are right up to the street. So, you know, in urban planning, that sets the precedent for that street, right? So I'm following that. Other things on the application are putting a new overhang on the west side of the house. That whole west side of the house is not original. That was built in the 1950s. And you can see that, that's supplied in the historic photographs that were just passed around. That addition was built with scraps from a house that was torn down. That was a twin house of my house. We're adding a short fence against my west neighbor's house, Kathy, because my cat keeps jumping into her yard, and so it's going to be hard for the cat to jump over corrugated metal, or at least harder. And a little patio area on that west side, a ramp, and solar panels on the roof, both PV solar panels and hot water heater solar panels. What else? I think that's it. So just basically catching up and kind of keeping the house going and kind of prepping it for maybe having a family. But yeah. I think it's ideal for comments.
How does the door slides open? Right?
Yeah, it'll slide to the
It slides along
east.
the wall?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, just a typical barn slider. So it would stick out the depth of that corrugated, maybe a 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch more, so it would stick out 2 inches. But there's lots of things on the street that stick out, pipes, cars that don't park all the way in, so it's just a couple inches. But if I had to, I could design it so it goes in, but that would be really tricky and expensive.
Okay, Thank you. So we have or did you want to ask the question?
No, I just wanted to, I don't think I heard that he said it was not contributing.
Technically, it's not. You guys know how I feel about that.
No, we know.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to open up the public hearing for this. Oh, this one doesn't have a public hearing, does it?
No, it does.
It does.
Do you declare the public hearing
Oh, yeah,
open?
yeah, okay, so I'm declaring the public hearing open.
I think there were letters.
Can we,
There
I
are
have,
letters.
You
I
sent
can-
it in? Okay.
I can read some. You go ahead and speak.
He sent it in, but yeah, he sent something in, but I'd like to speak, yeah.
Yeah. Well, how
But-
would you like to do it? If
Go
you
ahead
can-
and read.
Okay. I'll read the letters
Read
first.
the letters and then we'll have people come up and speak.
Okay, this one is from Bruno Gordon. Yes. Hello, Nina. That's Nina. As a neighbor of Ben and Ashley, we have had the opportunity to speak with them concerning their garage project. We live a few houses down and share concerns regarding the driving hazards and congestion on Tenby. That narrow road, like others in Old Bisbee, is not conducive to any shoulder parking, so projects that include garages or off-road parking spaces is beneficial and highly desired. Their garage idea will add character and traffic relief to our community. We wholeheartedly support this project. Please consider our affirmative vote for their project during the DRB review. Best regards, Bruno and Nicole Gordon. Next letter. Oh, I need to actually change out the battery real quick with this
Okay,
camera.
pause.
You want to
Oh,
speak?
Oh, no, we're
Not
gonna
yet.
pause
Yeah.
until he changes out the,
yeah. Okay. Let's see here. From Russell Stewart. I support Ben's DRB project. I believe this project can help eliminate some congestion on Tenby Avenue. Thanks, R. Stewart. Sent from my iPhone. Okay. Whatever. From Kathy Murphy. Attention, Nina Williams. I'm writing to say that I support Ben Lepley building a garage on his property next door to me on Tenby Avenue. It will be very helpful. As you may know, parking on Tenby is very limited. Ben and his wife Ashley have a couple of cars and a motorcycle. Being able to park them in their garage instead of on the street will free up space for others who wish to visit residents, as well as for vehicles from the city and utility companies. Sincerely, Kathy Murphy. Another letter from Ted Wheeler. Greetings, Ms. Williams. I am writing you regarding the proposal to construct a garage workshop at 27 Tenby Avenue. My wife and I live at 41 Tenby Avenue, and we are in full support of this project. Parking on our street is more than a small challenge, and we heartily endorse measures taken to help ameliorate these difficulties. Ben Lepley is a very personable neighbor, licensed architect, and former U of A instructor. We are confident that he will approach this undertaking with the greatest care and steady professionalism. If you feel the need to contact me further for more information, feel free to email me or contact me. This letter is from next to pool. Okay.
That's me.
That's you, from Bob McCruff. Okay. I oppose the proposal to build a garage workshop at 27 Tenby Avenue as described for the following reasons attached. These include the construction and excavation of the retaining wall and building will cause considerable disruption of traffic on Tenby Avenue. This is a very narrow two-way street with no place for residents to turn around or pass if any truck or equipment is on the street. It is virtually impossible to back up to the other end towards the intersection with Opera Drive if there is any obstruction. The tall corrugated garage door will be unsightly and not fit for the general appearance of the homes in the area. Additionally, for the door to slide open, it will slide across the property line and possibly interfere with the neighbor's adjoining retaining wall unless the door moves along the street right of way itself. There is no description of the building including height and materials. That's all of the written comments.
Okay. Do we have Ms. Adams?
So, this is awkward because I don't like going against a neighbor's proposal, especially if it's something to improve a property. But on a few different levels, this is not working for me. I am in the house that's extremely close to where this project would be. I am the property that is just to the east, right here. So here is the structure that's being suggested. There's a couple different levels I'm coming from. Number one is the prominence of this view. This portion of Tembe is extremely visible from Highway 80 and from multiple places in Old Bisbee. You really see front and center that chunk. And I just feel that, you know, Ben's design, particularly being 2 stories with no setback, really does not fit in with the historic character of the hillside at all. It looks very industrial, and it's large. And, you know, generally I think of a workshop as being set back, you know, that it wouldn't be right on the street. Some of those garages that he showed photos of are right on the street, but they have a much lower profile than this would once it was made into 2 stories. So, you know, besides the fact that I don't think it looks good, maybe one of my biggest concerns might not really be the purview of the DRB, but it has to do with the structural degradation of that retaining wall and of my property. Because as you can see, it's really close. You know, what Ben is proposing is only 5 feet away from the border of my property. And my house is only about 5 or 6 feet away from that border also. And this retaining wall, I don't know how clear it is in the photo that you're looking at, but that is one of those old walls that's cracked. It's essentially, you know, made of dust. And it makes me very nervous when I see them cut into, especially because Tembe is so narrow there. There's no room to buttress it on the Tembe side, you know, on the street. There's no way to reinforce that. And I don't see how that is safe to cut into it. And to cut into the hillside that far back, right next to my property, in order to just make one little parking space. I understand, you know, why all the neighbors are concerned. It's very hard to drive through this street. It's 2-way, there's barely room for traffic, everyone parks all over. There's already about, you know, 10 cars too many, so one more spot isn't really going to make a difference. You know, my feeling is that if people purchase a tiny house in Old Bisbee and then they need more space and more parking, the solution is generally to sell their place and buy something that has more room, or where they can build something else, unless it's really easy and it's not going to impact the historic nature of the view. I don't know if an engineer has been consulted. I don't know if there's a report, but even if an engineer says that's okay, having seen so many times what happens as soon as you touch these walls makes me really nervous. So even if it's approved on that level, I'm wondering who holds the liability in this case? Like, what happens if this wall fails and this, like, you know, my house is like 5 different levels if you count the basement and the attic. It's huge. Like, what happens if the wall right underneath it crumbles? Who's responsible? Like, who pays for that? So, again, it's awkward because Ben and Ash are my neighbors and I like them, but this really concerns me. And, you know, I think it's great that the neighbors are all thinking about parking, but I think they haven't really looked at the wall and looked at the proximity of our properties.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Do we have anyone else who would like to speak on this item? Okay. I I will now declare the public hearing closed. And let's see, do we have staff comments?
A lot going on, you know, new structures and tight roads. I mean, like the new overhang, that's gonna be nice to have on that side of the house. The corrugated fence is gonna give them some privacy in that area. Really like to see what you guys think about the shed.
Okay.
Can I have one other thing, real quick?
Yeah, I've already.
Sorry, okay,
closed
never
it.
mind. I was just gonna say, I don't have any problem with what he was proposing on the west side of the property. Just the east side shed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, board discussion is open.
Can I join the board discussion now?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
No, you're-
Yeah.
Can't just.
Well, Nina consulted the lawyer and they said, I can't vote, but I can.
Well, the lawyer's on,
He's right here.
Not participate at all.
don't participate at all.
Oh, that's a different, okay.
But your public comments were read into the record.
Yeah, but I still have a lot of questions. Okay.
I have a question for Mr. Rodriguez. Is there a zoning issue that would preclude this being built right on the, I guess, the property line along the street?
No, because most of everything, even like the walls that people have built is along the street. Those walls belong to the property owners, so everything along that street is
So you can just
owned
build
by-
right up to the street?
Right up to it, because all the properties along there have it.
Okay.
I think the height of the building is a little high too, so that's something to take into consideration.
But
Well,
if it's
well,
within the
setback-
zoning?
No, it's not in the zoning, it was just an opinion, but
Oh.
the setback in the front is fine to be flush with the road. Because everybody else's stuff is flush with the road.
And I have another comment that street troubles, I know that that was a big issue for both sides of this coin, are really not our purview.
Right.
You know, it's a design issue. I think it can be brought before zoning for the, I don't know, maybe it's brought before DPW for street issues, I don't quite know. And I wanted to ask Mr. Lepley, just so that, because it sounds like this is the big, well, one of the big issues is, how will you address construction tying up traffic on the street? You know, that seems to be a big deal.
So, is this thing working?
It's flashing, it's
It's
probably dying.
flashing.
Oh, hell.
Do you want another one?
Here, let me just put a new battery in it.
You also have a mic
Take
right
it.
here. Yeah.
Thanks.
Battery, water.
Ben, you want to take mine in the meantime? Another brief water break? You could.
One thing that I realize now is hard to see. So there's these elevations, that the elevation, there are dimensions there, they're in red, so they're a little bit hard to see. The top of Eliza's house is 26'6", facing the road, it's right on the road. My proposal is 18'7", so 8 feet lower than Eliza's, which is, what year was your house built, 1983?
Yeah, somewhere in the 80s.
Yeah, so, fairly recent for Bisbee, so I'm just following what other people have done on the street that are not historic buildings and on lower than that significantly. So, so yeah, the dimensions are on the drawings, and I guess maybe the other, Bob didn't see those dimensions. I should have had them in black. They are hard to read. I apologize for that. Okay, so for construction, let me get to that. So actually, Bruno and Nicole across the street are building a garage. I think their parking area, their application was in front of the DRB 4 sessions ago. They are getting their dirt maybe, from here, from this construction. So actually, we're saving a lot of congestion by doing those two things at once. The other thing that maybe Bob doesn't know, that dirt from my yard is actually under Bob's parking spot. Right before he bought that house, there was a parking spot that was made, and that dirt came from actually this exact same spot where this garage is. The other thing that's really important here is if you went up and looked at that retaining wall, you'll notice that it is collapsing now. There's two retaining walls. One is along the stairs. That's the old retaining wall made out of stone and mortar that is from at least 1901. That is actively falling down. It is being braced by wood, and it's not safe. And something needs to be done about it, which is why this project is being thought of, one of the reasons. The other retaining wall is a bit newer. I think it's probably 1910, around the time they built the road, maybe a little bit after. It's in those historic photos shown. So one way to buttress a retaining wall is from behind. It's called a dead man anchor. So I've got over 20 years of experiences in architecture. I started when I was 16 years old. I've worked with many engineers all over the world, India, China, the US. I worked in historic buildings in Tucson. So I'm very familiar with structures. In fact, part of the architect's test, one of 7 tests, is structural calculations. A lot of people don't know that, but architects do structural calculations. We detail rebar, we do all of that stuff. We write those specs, the engineer signs off on them, or the engineer does them. But there is some duplicity there between engineers and architects. We can self-perform engineering. We just have to take on the liability. I've got $2 million of professional liability. So potentially I could talk to Bunny Insurance to see if they would cover this, since it's my own house. But that was brought up, so I'm answering that part of it. So, and I also have homeowners insurance too.
Yeah,
so,
it doesn't cover retaining
So, nonetheless, one way to anchor an old retaining wall is called a dead man anchor. That's where you come from the back and you anchor into the ground. So in this case, the new retaining walls for that parking space would strengthen the old front retaining wall that's along Tembe. Basically, I would diamond saw cut the retaining wall where the opening needs to be for parking, and then drill in, anchor in every foot. I would drill in a foot deep, insert rebar and epoxy, bend that rebar, and work that into the new rebar cage that goes 18 feet into the hillside. There is no way that would weaken the old wall. It would only strengthen it and give it 100 years more life. In addition, now it has to be the code, so it have a French drain, gravel, the whole nine. And Hobby would obviously be overseeing that, making sure it's the code. So
Yes, absolutely, Mr. Davis.
This is all interesting, but it's not in the purview of the DRB. So you're going to fix these walls. This is about your design. So I don't think we need to go into that. That's something that if you approve this design, Javier and Ben and everybody, they're going to have to deal with all that stuff.
Right.
So we don't really need to get into the minutiae of all the retaining walls and all that stuff.
Okay.
That's not what you're looking at.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
But it did spur the timing of this project because that one retaining wall.
That's fine, but that's got nothing to do with the design.
Yeah.
Okay. I will say that when I first saw this, I was surprised at the size of the shed. It looks very large to me, and considering that this is a really small little house, that just felt, I don't know, I didn't think it really looked good. Like it's almost bigger than the house.
Are we in the board discussion yet?
Yeah, we're in board discussion. Yes, we are. Mr. Gaffney, would you like to say something?
Well, no, I was following on. Ben, have you considered some fenestration in the shed portion to sort of break up the mass of that? Because I know this is a perspective elevation, and which is why it tends to dwarf the house. But even so, when you stand on the street, it's going to seem awfully big. Have you considered trying to break up that mass?
Yeah, I did, and the sliding, so it is broken up in half. The sliding door would be the lower half, and the
Right.
upper half.
Yeah.
And so in thinking about that, the things I passed up there, I'll show you. These. So this image here,
Yeah.
Yes.
is a sample of maybe some alternative materials that I could break up visually. I was thinking about maybe doing the sliding door out of either salvaged, like pressed tin like this, so that kind of breaks up that front, or something creative, a little bit more artistic like that. I'd be open to that.
But no windows in the shed portion?
No, it's a security thing, you know, I probably have tools and stuff in there. The concept was to have light come in with the corrugated, so it's, Mr. Green, who's a previous DRB member, actually his garage is featured in here. And that's how he gets light into his parking structure is, it's kind of behind the tree, but they've got the vertical corrugated fiberglass
All right.
to get light.
It wasn't the question, I was not trying to make the point that you need to get light in
Yeah.
a situation to do that. It was just to break up the mass
Yeah.
of that face, which is the face that the majority of people, other than your name and neighbors, going to see.
I mean, yeah, I'd be totally open to, you know, motion or a change of material or something like that, which might help with that.
I'd like to see that. I'd like to
I
see.
don't know what whether my colleagues, I mean, I respect your aesthetic, Ben, of course I do. I just, in this particular case, it seems odd that you haven't broken that up a little bit more. I don't know.
I don't know, Mr. Shriver, did you have a comment?
Visually, I would like to see the front of the garage lower if possible. And maybe, you know, the shed is in the back, almost looking like another building instead of one big huge mass in front. It's just my personal opinion. It looks massive. If you look at Steve Green's garage, you know, something more in the lines of that, where it's lower, just a little above the wall, rather than something that looks like you drive a semi in there.
Yeah, and it does look huge to me as well.
I mean, that's just my comment, and I get what Ben's doing. I mean, he's just making it all level. Just my opinion.
Mr. Guy, do you have any comments?
So, yeah, I mean, I think there would be quite a few options to break up that front, maybe even a small porch or something to make it look a little more residential. I think this is a huge undertaking, good on you. I don't think I would try this one, and I'm fearless, so. I do have a question, and I think you know it. There's a big sewer line that's running right underneath that, and probably going at least at a 45 up to the back of the house. Is that being rerouted, or?
Well, that's probably a 100-year-old sewer line, and it's due to be redone.
Especially when you
I've
expose it.
visually seen other stretches of that sewer line, and it probably could be replaced, so it would be rerouted a little bit to the west slightly.
Towards the staircase?
Yeah. with the
Again,
stairs.
that's not
Yeah.
an issue for the DRB.
But it happens occasionally. There was a project on Zacatech, or Tombstone, in the Gulch that, Adobe, that the sewer line had to be rerouted to make room for a parking spot, so it happens.
I am personally disinclined to approve the shed being so huge and just this mass of corrugated wall, you know. I just don't think it would look, yeah, like you said, it doesn't look residential, and it doesn't feel like it fits the rest of the neighborhood. I don't have any problem with any of the other aspects, including the solar panels, and the overhang on the west side is fine to me. And actually, the shed is fine, it's just so huge. And I think that massive wall of gray is a little shocking to me anyway.
Is there any way you can break that up then?
Yeah.
I mean, just break up the garage portion and then
What I can
step.
do, I think you had the suggestion of making stepping back the top a bit, maybe making like a porch thing a little bit. I think the shed aspect is really important because we got a lot of stuff in the yard.
Sure,
that's under tarps.
absolutely, yeah.
And
I can see that.
we actually had a whole different idea of doing a kind of an addition on the west side next to Kathy's yard, and instead we're like, why don't we see if we can get it into one, but, no, I'd be fine stepping back so
Just
where the
reducing the
garage
height.
is.
Reducing the height
Yeah,
of the
Or
front
the
of the
appearance
garage.
of the height.
Yeah.
right?
Pardon me?
The appearance of that height, because if he's gonna have a second floor, it's gonna have to, 18 feet, 18.7, whatever it was, is a tough, you get a joist
Well,
in there.
Yeah, we're just gonna make two buildings is what I'm suggesting.
what I could do is actually, and you see this, where the front where the sliding doors remains the same, right above where the sliding door is, there's a patch of roof, maybe a couple feet, and then that wall steps back. And it improves,
I see that.
it breaks up the volume,
Yeah,
and it also, for
I-
Eliza's sake, kind of improves her view a little bit more.
So,
I'd be fine with that.
I have a digital photo and I can see what's going on a little more clearly than what's here.
Oh,
That your sliding doors is half that,
yeah.
that
Yeah.
dimension. And you could get rid of a lot of that mass up top to create the garage that you want and get your off-street parking. Kind of like John was saying, maybe a deck or something on that, or nothing, just a roof, and then you have your shed.
so how far back are you suggesting that you
Couple
step
feet,
in?
a couple feet, just enough to break up the facade, and so when you look up at it, it's not like,
Well, I
Over there.
would think it would be the garage, whatever that is. However deep you're gonna go back for a garage,
Well, that's pretty much the whole building.
Yeah, the garage is the whole
Yeah,
building.
because he has to park at an angle as it is.
I see.
Yeah.
yeah, and that's a small car getting in there, that's.
It's a nice car.
A Chevy Volt, yeah, that's the dream car one day, it's a Chevy Volt or a Miata, and a motorcycle at most. Definitely not getting a Chevy 1500.
Yeah, so what I'm suggesting doesn't work, okay.
But I think conceptually though, breaking up the facade, that facade, I'm totally willing to step the top back a couple feet. Originally, it was actually a side slope, so the front facade would have been a triangle at the top. And I had already talked to Liza in the street about it, and she never saw a render or anything, but, change the slope to drain towards the street, which already kind of lowered that from, I think I was up at like 26 and lowered it 8 feet already, so.
What kind of pitch are we looking at on the roof you have here?
That's a good question. I think it's, I matched the pitch of the front porch. I matched that, so it's
The front
2
porch
to
of the
12.
house. The front porch of the house.
Yeah, I matched that, so 2 to 12, I think. So it's actually the same, so the drawings of the house are here, so it's the same as that front porch slope.
I think I'd be inclined to approve it if the garage was the only thing there and the shed moved over to the other side.
Yeah, I can,
Because you can't do that with the garbage tank.
we need yard,
Yes.
A suggestion, could we approve everything except for the structure above the garage and ask the applicant to redesign the shed so it breaks up the mass? Would that be doable?
yeah,
And then come back in the next meeting with no extra charge, sort of, see if you can sort of break up that mass, which would make, I think, a number
I'd be
of.
happy to do that.
Yeah, I would be okay with that. I do feel like the mass needs to be.
I think that's fine. It's okay with him.
Yeah, okay. So I'll make a motion to move this along. Are we ready to make a motion?
Yes.
To approve the application 24-107 as submitted with the following provision, that the shed portion of the new construction is redesigned and represented to the board at the next meeting to
Minimize the mass.
Stop that. Is that understood? We're good with that?
Yep,
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All against, say nay. Okay, the 5 ayes have it, so you have partial approval of your application. We'll see you in the next one.
I'll submit partial permit application for retaining wall demo and some other stuff to you.
Thank you, Ben.
Okay. All right, moving along. Thank you, Mr. Buckley, everyone. Oh, yeah.
He's right there.
Yes. All right. So that takes us to
Do I send
agenda
the rest of the
item
meeting?
5,
No? Okay. All right.
application 24-109, 18 Closet.
Sorry to make you wait so long. It's all good.
All right, should I just like start?
Sure. Speak into the mic just because we're recording this.
Okay. Hi, my name is Kevin Cole Van Norman. I've owned 18 Clawsons since October of 2020. Basically, in November of 2021, I caught fire on Thanksgiving from electrical fire. The city came out and soaked the entire house. I've basically just been dealing with insurance for the last couple of years, and house is basically not structurally sound at all. There's no framing in any of the walls. I did the architect plans and the structural plans for the house. After meeting with Hobby, we kind of assessed that 2 of the rooms are really kind of unsalvageable. There's no framing, there's no foundations. The wood that's there is sitting about 2 feet in the ground. And then there's a old historical roof, and then a like 1950s, 60s roof over the top of that. So we have an abandoned roof within those 2 rooms also. So there's not much that I was gonna be able to say. The windows are not historic. They are vinyl windows. So what I was proposing is basically rebuilding these 2 front rooms, still salvaging 2/3 of the house. Just strategically wise too, it makes it easier for construction, just because we don't know what we're saving in these 2 rooms. The other parts of the house are salvageable and can be reworked by lifting them. Just these 2 rooms basically have nothing that is salvageable other than maybe the siding on the outside. And then we just replace the roof with the same current roof. So like for like is what I'm proposing. And again, my house is a miner's shack, so it was built on many, many times. There is, you can see the historical house underneath all of the additions, but there's not much from, I think, the 1905 original structure that is visible from the outside. From the road, you only really see roof, so my visual of my house is just the roof. So.
Okay. Okay, great. So I'm going to open the public hearing on this one. Do you have anybody here that would like to speak on this issue? This application? No? Okay. I'm closing the public hearing and moving on to staff comments.
I don't.
I see it is contributing, correct?
Yes.
It is contributing. The windows are not historic, it looks like. If he does everything like for like, are you planning on raising the front anymore, or just keeping everything the same elevation?
I was pretty much planning to keep it the exact same,
Okay.
unless someone said otherwise.
That'll be good. There is like 3 roofs in that particular part where he's gonna be building inside of it, so it's been changed over time. But like for like, I don't see no big deal.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'll move on to the board discussion. Yes.
Mr. Van Norman?
Yes.
It looks like the siding's kind of beat there, the existing siding,
Yes.
and you're going to replace it if you can't save it. I'd love for you to save it, but what I'm wondering is, how would you replace that? That's kind of novelty, I think. Is that, Ben, is that drop siding on that, do you think? Is that?
Yeah, teardrop siding, I think you can find it, B&D used to have it,
Okay.
on special order.
Yeah.
Get a mill.
And
There's
just,
a contractor in town that can make.
yeah, and then the engineering requires the retaining wall against the house to be higher, so the siding will start up higher, so we won't have to need as much. So that is one thing, because right now the wood goes into the ground.
But you're not thinking cement board or something?
No, I would
You're
just-
gonna have milled siding,
Yes.
just that matches?
Yeah, because the entire house, which is, if you were able to walk around it, most of the house is on the back side, and it has all the same type of siding, so I'd like to keep it all consistent.
Yeah.
So,
That siding is purchasable.
Yeah, okay, good, because
Only
it's
because
a,
I have it and have bought some.
it's a very fine coursing, it's pretty tiny, you don't see that much anymore.
Yeah.
It's so big. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else?
So, I think it's fine, especially if he's redoing it, it's exactly the same, it's not gonna be like a tombstone reproduction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Gaffer?
No, I feel for you.
Looking at the foundation?
This particular house it has the same construction as his neighbor had, that Tom had Road Hill. This was Ritz old place.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I basically almost have to start from scratch.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, well, he has the right intention, that's great.
okay, so, do we have a motion for this one?
Sure.
Sure.
I'll make a motion to approve application 24-109 as submitted.
I second the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All against say nay. Okay, your application is approved
Thank you.
unanimously. Thank you. And
Yeah.
moving on,
We have 7 o'clock.
finally, to agenda item 6, application 24-113, 44 High Road.
Hi, I'm Brady Meadows, Kate Bishop. The house in 44 High Road, I designed the house and built it myself. And the studio is Kate's sewing area, her studio, art studio. We're going to move our art studio up to a bedroom in our house. It's much more convenient, less stairs and all. And so we want to turn the existing studio into a little guest studio. Her daughter visits with her family. Also, we have warm showers and couch surfers. We're going to visit us, and it'd be a great place for them to stay. So we're just asking to put a little bathroom extension that only goes about 4 feet out. Going to just have a toilet and a sink and a shower. And it's just a small extension. I'm not sure if you guys have ever lived by the property, but it's almost impossible to even see down there where it's going to be. So, any questions?
No? Okay, so there is a public hearing on this one. I'll declare the public hearing open. Anybody here have any?
I'm all for it.
Okay. Okay, on that note, I will declare the public hearing closed, and we'll move on to staff comments.
It's in a perfect spot, you ain't gonna see it, it's an add-on to them, they can have room for their family.
Yeah.
Yep,
Okay,
and it's not contributing.
okay,
Yep.
right, and so opening board discussion. I have no problem with this, you can't see it.
Well, it's not contributing.
Yeah, not
And it's not
contributing.
contributing, yeah.
Plus,
What does
Grady is-
contributing mean?
When they did the survey originally for putting the whole town, essentially, this part of town, on the National Register of Historic Places, they went through, people came down from the U of A and got people who were into history here in town, and they went around and looked at buildings that they thought were unchanged over time. I think that was 1979. And some of them they thought, well, they're changed too far to say that it's an historic building. So there are the contributing, which is sort of the sacred little structures, and then there are the non-contributing, which are sacred also, but they have there's a looser set of rules to deal with.
And contributing structures have a tax break as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or
Okay,
it couldn't have one.
anybody else have comments about this application? Do we have a motion? I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve as is application number 24-113.
I will second.
Okay, seconded by Mr. Schreiber. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All against, say nay. Okay, your application is approved unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Thank you for waiting patiently. This is a long
Very
one.
interesting.
Okay, moving right along to last but not least, application 24-117, 15 Maxfield Avenue. Come on here.
Awesome.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Kevin Van Orman.
That happens all the time.
We recently purchased this house on 15 Maxfield. We're moving to see if you guys would approve a design that we have for a new balcony for upstairs and porch for downstairs. The balcony upstairs is completely dilapidated, it's rotted. We brought an engineer out to look at the structural design of it, and we were informed that it has to be removed for liability reasons, okay? So we have to remove the upper balcony. Now, the cross beams that run between each of the pillars, we have been informed are structurally sound, so we're going to be able to save the cross beams that run in between each of the pillars. On the downstairs is a porch. Again, that porch is completely rotted. We were going to redo the porch on the downstairs also. We were also going to add a railing that matched the top. My wife and I, who's here with me, we went around town looking to see what we thought would be appropriate. We gathered that conversation with who's helping us to design this, and we came up with putting spindles in, as opposed to the original design of the railing. The original design of the railing is only 2 feet high. It's got cross beams that run with openings 10, 12 inches. On the second floor, that would be clearly in violation of code. So the only design we could come up with was to go 36 inches, which is what we have to do in order to be able to comply with the code, and then put each of our spindles at 4 inches apart in order to be able to conduct this endeavor. So that's what we're looking to be able to do, and I'm here to answer any questions that I can answer with my knowledge of the construction side.
Okay, thank you very much, appreciate it. All right, from there I'll move on to public comments. Is there anybody here who'd like to speak for or against? Okay, moving along from public comments, staff comments. Okay.
It is not code compliant right now, New design looks a lot more safer.
Okay, and your opinion on the condition of the existing?
Pretty average.
Thank you. All right, I will open the board discussion.
I have a question, if I may.
Yes, you may.
Are those columns that you have that look like the wooden columns above the masonry columns, are they staying? Okay. So the ones that look like classical columns are
They are staying,
okay.
yes.
Yeah, the only thing I have is that I kind of wish that originally your 2-foot line matched the top of those masonry columns. That was nice, but I understand, and it looks like you have the right intention on, with the wooden and all that use on the porch, so I'm fine with it.
I'd like to keep the original, though. I loved the look.
Yeah.
It was so beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, this probably
Really
won't be
neat.
that different, but it was beautiful, yeah.
Yes, Mr.
If I
Webb.
may, so I was gifted a treasure trove of high-resolution historic photos of Old Bisbee from a historian in town. And I found a photo of the house from 1910, I think. It's the second one. And it shows the X pattern balconies. And so I bring that up because that's an architectural historic feature of the house and contributes design-wise to that, and it's still intact, but not salvageable, right?
Right.
So the library, the Copper Queen Library had a similar situation with railing height and also the potential for kids climbing through. And what's done in that situation, and actually Old Main at U of A campus had the same issue too. And in both of those cases, what they did is they put an additional rail above they restored the original, put an additional rail above, and at Old Main, they put a steel mesh behind. So it solves the code issue, it solves the height issue, and then they rebuilt the old banisters in the same exact design. So visually, it's exactly the same, and then you meet the, architecturally, it's the same, and then you meet the code requirement of, you know, no 4-inch gap and whatnot. So that's my suggestion, looking at precedents of similar situations. It's a beautiful house, and you guys really lucked out. I mean, it's just fantastic.
And we are putting the time and effort into it to make it as nice as possible, and of course respect historical nature. We do believe that the new design of the balcony, though, would be more appropriate, safer, and would meet code much easier than the design that you're asking us to do.
I think he's talking about putting a grid behind it so that it meets the code requirements, like a metal grid behind it.
Which is still at 2 feet high.
And then adding on top of it, if you look
You'd
at
have
the
to add multiple, because 2 feet, you'd have to add every 4 inches, you'd have to have, go ahead.
No, it would be a new railing at 3 feet, and then the grid starts directly underneath that.
What I'm being told structurally is that bringing that across, because we had thought about that, because we said maybe we could do the same design and come across and have something, that there's really nothing to hook it onto except those particular posts that go up, putting that railing across there. And what we were going to do is structurally come up with our railings coming up this way and support it all the way across, so that we don't have any issue. And those are just going to be dummied up to the actual posts, so they look like dummies there, but they're supported down below. That's the structural design that we have now.
Yeah, it would be the same as that, just maintaining the X pattern. And then instead of the vertical wood, you've got a mesh behind the X.
Why do we need a mesh?
To meet code.
Yeah, so, because there's more, so that they,
Give that picture. May I approach? I can show you.
Well, I've got it here.
I've got it there. So you have these X.
Right here. You can see it.
Where there's the X pattern, a small chunk run through.
Or if you're drunk and you
Or you could
fall over, it's only 2 feet high.
yeah, exactly.
Well, no, what I was thinking was that you just take that structure and just enlarge it.
Yeah.
But you still have that problem of what you're talking about.
It looks like on one of these photos that the top rail was already above the diagonal rail.
Well, yeah, but you still have that problem.
Yeah, at Old Main, they found the columns, you know, the columns that hold up the porch roof, and it tied into that, and then went down.
Well, that's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, all I'm saying is just you take this design and you make it bigger. You can enlarge this, but the problem is that you've got that 4-inch space.
That's what the mesh would be for.
Okay, we need to move along here.
Yeah. Okay. Do we have a motion? I am going to make a motion to approve application 24-117 as is, with the possible suggestion of considering maintaining the original look of the banister and putting a,
Mesh.
yeah, putting the mesh behind it to bring it to code, and a railing above it. The mesh
We'll
is
seriously
behind it.
consider that.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. DeCroft seconds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All against say nay.
Nay.
Okay, 5-2, your application passes.
Thank you.
Moving along, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
Moving along to agenda item 8. I make a motion to approve the September 4, 2024 meeting minutes. Do we have a second?
A second?
Okay, Mr. Guy seconds. All in favor say aye. Aye. All against say nay.
I'll pass, I wasn't here.
Okay, Mr. Crowe passes, so 6-1. The minutes are approved. And then, do we have any future agenda item suggestions tonight?
Well, I'd really like to get on with the workshop and finish up the work. I don't know if it's scheduled yet, but
I think it's on our list of things to,
Yeah, I think it's good.
yeah, so we have items that will be put on the agenda, but we were waiting until everybody was back together, and we are now, so
right.
most things should start appearing on the agenda. All right. I make a motion to adjourn this meeting of the Bisbee Design Review Board. Do I have a second? All in favor say aye. Aye. All against say nay. Okay, this meeting of the Design Review Board is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
In retrospect.
What's up?
So I guess the sidewalk is,
Yeah, you know, we need to start doing it. Let's do it.
yeah, I need to,
The contract, we need to get the contract signed.
well, I need to revise it to add small changes.
Okay.
It's an AI code, architect in the city.
Uh-huh.
Thank you for the large scenario.
Please turn this off.